Hello and welcome to another one of these videos where I take a little bit more time than usual to explore words which I've seen students struggle with over the years, words which are often commonly confused and which cause problems. Often, as I think in this case today, it's because maybe one word exists in lots of languages, where in English we have two words with very similar meanings. And the words I'm going to be looking at today are extend and prolong. Now, if you look up the meaning of these words in dictionaries, they're basically very similar. Extend essentially means adding to something to make it bigger or larger or longer. And prolong basically means making something last longer. So prolong clearly has a slightly more limited kind of meaning to do with time. And that's reflected in the fact that extend is much more widely used, much more commonly used. And I think the mistake lots of students make is using the word prolong when actually we would use extend. So maybe you can have your kitchen extended. Maybe you add a little bit to the kitchen to make it bigger or to make it longer. They often talk about extending an area. So maybe in a nursery school, they might extend the play area. Governments maybe try to extend the road network or extend the rail network by building more roads, by adding more train lines in the country. Maybe if you run a publishing company, you might decide to start branching out. Maybe you publish one or two children's books and you find that they do quite well. So you decide that for the next year, you're going to extend your publishing of kids' books. You're going to start doing more of it. You're going to add more. Often around Christmas or when the World Cup is on here, particularly if it's in another country and the games are happening at, late at night here in England, lots of bars or pubs will apply to extend their opening hours. You might say, no, the pub's open till 2 o'clock tonight. They've got an extension because the football's on at midnight. Maybe if you have a visa for a country that you're staying in, you might need to get your visa extended. And you might also find that you need to get your contract at work extended. It's often big news for football fans when star players are offered a contract extension. And there's a lot of debate about whether they'll, whether they'll sign it or whether they'll turn it down. If you're at university and you've been having personal problems that affect your ability to write your essays, you might be able to talk to a tutor and explain that because there are extenuating circumstances, reasons why you're not able to perform at your best, personal problems, deaths in the families, breakups or whatever, you need to get a deadline extension or you need to get your deadline extended. And, hopefully they'll give you another couple of weeks before you have to hand in your essay. If you have something like a newspaper subscription or a Netflix subscription, you might decide after an initial trial period to extend your subscription. Maybe if you're good at repairing things, you might have an old fridge or an old car or an old Hoover. And if it breaks down, you know how to fix it, you know how to patch it up, and therefore you can extend its working life. And you might say, for example, that you are quite an adventurous eater. Maybe you'll try anything once, although that idea won't necessarily extend to all other areas of your life. There's also one other kind of connected meaning of extend, which you often hear in formal speeches, where it kind of means to offer something or to give something. So you often hear in speeches, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're lucky enough to be joined by... Maybe on the first day of a course or the first day at university, someone official might give a speech where they extend a very warm welcome to everybody joining you for the first time today. Maybe governments extend invitations to foreign leaders. Maybe if you're giving a speech thanking people, you might extend your thanks to your publishers, your editors, the people who've helped you achieve what you've achieved. And maybe you might also extend your condolences to people who've lost something or suffered something. Prolong is often used negatively to talk about things lasting longer when you don't want them to, sort of bad things lasting longer. So, maybe, I don't know, you wanted to know who won Eurovision because you were out when the news came in, and you might get home and your partner might say, God, you're never going to believe it. Guess who won? I've no idea. Go on, have a guess. God, just don't prolong the agony. Just tell me. Sometimes with students where I can see that students are really tired and that they're starting to flag a little bit, I might say, listen, I can see that you're all on your last legs. I don't want to prolong your misery anymore, so let's take a break, shall we? Maybe, if you're a good boss, during a meeting, you might say, okay, well, if there's no other business, I don't want to prolong the meeting any longer than necessary, so let's call it a day and stop there. Other things that you commonly prolong include wars, so you might talk about prolonging the war, prolonging someone's suffering. Maybe dictators try to prolong their time in power. Bad things can happen that prolong problems. Maybe, if you've got a terminal illness or you're very, very ill, the doctors might be able to prolong your life by a month or two, or a few months, or maybe even a year. But you're never really going to have a good quality of life again. And you can often talk about prolonging the nightmare. It doesn't mean prolong is always used negatively. That's just a general truth. Sometimes you see in literature, for example, that the food was maybe so delicious that somebody chews it very slowly so as to prolong the pleasure or to prolong the enjoyment. You also have adjectives, extended and prolonged. And again, extended is often used more positively. So, you might take an extended holiday in the summer, take 4 weeks off. Lucky you. Maybe after a particularly crazy thing happens in the world, there might be an extended news bulletin where you get more news than usual. Maybe you get a 1 hour news bulletin rather than a half an hour news bulletin. Maybe there's a report and they release a condensed version of the report, and then you get the extended version of the report. Maybe if you live with a grandparent or an uncle or your grandchildren, you live with your extended family. And, if you're anything like me, you might find it hard to concentrate for an extended period of time. Prolonged is often used to talk about long periods of time for bad things. So, maybe your boss might need to talk to you about your prolonged absence from work. Maybe you suffer from a prolonged illness. Maybe you might start to worry about prolonged periods of very dry weather, because maybe there'll be a drought and the crops will start to fail. And maybe, you might start to fall ill, or you might start to have serious physical or mental health problems because of prolonged drug use during the course of your life. If you've enjoyed this video, please do share it on social media with your friends, your students, your colleagues. In the comments section below, feel free to add your own examples of extend, extended, prolong, prolonged. And if you have words that you know you find confusing, do let us know and I'll try to make a video about them at some point. Thanks for watching.